Welcome to the Conscious Business Podcast.
It's nice and calm now.
Yeah.
Drop some dead weight,
Well, he was supposed to show up today.
but he's dead. He's gone.
Missing at least. Let's keep it as missing.
Missing. If you know where Clayton is, please let us know. He was supposed to be here today. And unfortunately, he's bailed and disappeared and no one knows where he is.
August 18th of 2022 was our last episode that we filmed. We are missing a ton of dialogue and film. It just disappeared along with Clayton. And they're not connected for some reason. So we're going to start it up again.
We're back. Fresh, better than ever.
Or at least still here.
We want to be here for you guys. So
we started our podcast. We started our podcast wanting to talk about the difficulties that we were having with our business, or really discussing stuff that people want to keep kind of bottled up, right? And over the last year and a half, since we filmed last, definitely stuff has happened. Interestingly enough, there's a lot more to it. How many years are you in it now?
oh God, I think April 1st was the start of year 5 officially.
Yeah, and I'm just over 2 years in real estate. Self-employment. That's the way I would like to put it. Like, it's self-employment, and it's really tough. A lot of ups and downs, or I end up putting a lot of unnecessary worry into the dailies of going after your business and trying to make it grow. And then also when you get it to grow to a certain point, you feel like you have to keep going, right? Where there's a healthy okay being able to say, I'm going to stop for a moment, take a break for myself, take a break for my family, do something enjoyable that's not real estate or marketing. I will put it that way, right? So, and I think that's the biggest thing I've learned over the last 2 years is find time for yourself, even if it's an hour here or an hour there. If you can get away for a day or a night.
Well, we might as well tell the big news first about your family.
I have an extra addition. I have 2 children now. It's amazing. I love it. Everybody's healthy and growing too fast too. That's the other part. Like, it blows my mind. How old's your son?
Kate will be 14 this year, which is nuts because I remember he was yay big.
Yeah. And even right now we have a 3-month-old at home, and I could hold her in my hand at birth. And now it's like the full length of my arm. And yeah.
That's a long arm.
Tall. They'll be tall.
So have you found since you've had the baby, work has taken a back step, or has come more forward or harder, or what's kind of been your take there?
With the first child, I was just starting up in the real estate. We ended up, that's actually when I left my other employment. Mm-hmm. And so I had time to take time off with my family and care for everybody that was my wife and my daughter. And this time through, the gears I knew were turning. And with real estate, I have a big belief that you don't get paid. Initially, you get a contact with somebody. It usually takes about 6 months for that deal to develop and become a paycheck, let's put it that way. And you have to work from day 1 to day 180. I thought to myself in September, I was going to take out a lot of that incoming business and I would slow it down. It worked, but there was a lot of people that I still marketed to just by talking with them. And it's not even, I say the word marketing, but it's just being myself and talking to people and keeping people up to date. And business got busy. And in December, I had 5 listings go live. January, I had 2. And that's when my second daughter was born. It was later on in January. And so the ball's rolling. The gears are turning. And it was really tough. The second part is you put 2 kids to bed. One person can handle it. But with 2 kids, you have to divide and conquer. So all hands on deck, right? So I ended up taking a lot of my efforts where I use that time for marketing. In my routine, I would use my evening to kind of get my stuff queued up for the next day. And I found that I wasn't queuing stuff up because I was hands-on with the family. Even to the point where it's tough to take a vacation, right? And you never know when stuff starts happening. And you promise people that you'll be there for them to help them out. So yeah, and I've actually had a lot of understanding clients that know that I give my true opinion about the state of the market is. If I can get them to sell a little bit later in this current market, I see profitability versus if we sell right now in certain regards, right? So yeah, if you're honest with people and your intentions are true, they'll be understanding of you.
Well, I think the first thing is like in real estate, if you go on vacation, you automatically become busy. So it's probably good if you push that off. Like it's just like a rule of thumb that always happens. And the second kind of question I want to bring this back to for you is like, so your routines that you are normally into is a lot more challenged now, or is it more important that you keep in those routines because you have to divide and conquer and do things a little bit differently?
So I've been failing in my routines, not waking up early enough. I find my ideal day would be a 5 a.m. start. You get to your computer, you do a little bit of a stretch, get to your computer, and you work until the kids wake up. And if I do that, I find I'm way ahead of the game for the day, way ahead. And the kids might wake up at 7:30, 8 o'clock. Perfect. So that gives you 2.5 to 3 hours of work that most, and I'll say undistracted work. And most people work 8 hours and complete about 2 hours of work.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, and then I find in the middle of the day after, the kids go to childcare or let's say like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, that's when your phone starts gaining a little bit of attention and people start having dialogues with you and you're already set up to deal with it. So you're in a reactive mode to those people, where before you're just proactive, you're clear-minded, you're able to focus on your stuff. When it comes to the end of the day, most people work, right? The 9 to 5. So they get home, they have dinner, and 6:30, I find my phone starts going. And I start getting messages from people and maybe even responses from my outreaches throughout the day. At 6:30, that's when I want to have dinner. And that's when the family's winding down. And then you have, the bath times and the reading to your kids. And those are things I really want to be home for. And then at 9 o'clock, when everybody's settled down and the house is quiet, I like to hop back into the work. So that would be an ideal day. And then you don't have to work very long to get your stuff queued up or social media or wrap stuff up and send off, documents or whatever it might be. But you get about an hour to hour and a half of time.
So theoretically for you, it's like 8 till 6 is kind of like the outreaches, the client facing stuff. And then 5 to 8 is in the business and 9 till whatever is in the business versus outbound and stuff.
And like people always, the comments, I hear it quite often, that real estate agents have it really easy.
They do. They get paid way too much too, but we'll come back to that.
I find there's a lot of sacrifice, and that's part of the part about you don't find a lot of time for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It's very selfless. We take a lot of time and we give it to our people, right? Undividedly.
Yeah.
So to be able to kind of be a recluse and hide for a day or two, it's tough. You can't do it. It's a 7-day-a-week job sometimes. So
yeah, it looks all glamorous because you get the, maybe we go to the gym at 12 o'clock or whatever the case is, or 1 o'clock gym or something like that. But ultimately, like dealing with people's expectations and dealing with people's, especially if they maybe had a poor decision or a poor experience with somebody else, trying to deal with them and they have all their questions at 7 o'clock and you're like, I'm having dinner. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, you had all day to ask me this question.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough. And everybody wants to get everything done in a day, but
it never works like that.
No.
Ever. No.
Yeah. Tell the people about your
I think we touched on it in episodes before when we were first recording, but my mom passed away obviously late 2021, early 2022, right before the year kind of kicked off. And then my stepdad had a stroke. So there was a lot of family drama to deal with at that point. But I actually learned, so when we were first talking, I was like uber successful in 2021 and 2022, the goal was actually to kick things back quite a bit and become a lot more family focused, which did help. Obviously the market slowing down drastically helped that a lot more than expected. But again, it was where you have to take care of you and take care of the people you love and take care of that situation before you can do anything else. Right. So, as you can imagine, dealing with a stroke victim and a passing of, like I was a single mom growing up, you have a lot of stress on your plate, right? So there was a lot of grieving techniques and like things I had to like get worked through myself before I could like take care of a client's biggest purchase, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of 2022. And then into 2023, I was given an amazing job opportunity to partner with another local big firm. And I knew it was going to be a step forward, but also a bit of a step back, just based on how the pay structure was going to be. Unfortunately, that partnership didn't quite work out, and we ended it in I guess November of last year. So back to my own gig and everything's looking beautiful for 2023. But I mean, ultimately, the market in real estate was hard last year. Market in finance was hard with rates, 500x above what they were, a year, 18 months prior. So it's a big learning curve. This is my first like real downturn in the market, and I got to learn where the fat was on the business and trim it and make things work. And it brought the hunger back, like the kind of being a thinner year financially, got the hunger back to like, let's kick some butt this year. So lots of up and downs, lots of learning curves, lots of fun. You look back, it wasn't fun at the time, but it's fun now when you look back at it.
Totally. And like 2.5 years in, I have no idea what a good market, great market, and the wild market would be. But you make the most of it. Like your economy or the economy doesn't dictate your economy, right?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely glad not necessarily save, but put things in different investments and put things in different buckets. So that way, like with this downturn, it was like, oh, we still have money. Oh, I got engaged. I guess that's the other big one. So we're paying for the wedding. So like everything's been able to our lives are still able to move forward and like not be hit financially, even though like my bank account's not bringing in that same exact money that it once was.
Do you find, I'm a big believer in living very thin, right? And there's a lot of stuff you don't need in the world.
So I do agree with that. But I grew up like, my mom did everything she could, but we were like definitely bottom middle class. So like there was definitely meals that I remember had to like be stretched out for like a day or two. So it was like the same meal for dinner for 3 days in a row or something like that. So, because I've always done fairly well financially by doing the construction jobs that work the stupid amount of hours and you make stupid amount of money, I've always like never really like, if I want steak, like I go buy the biggest, baddest steak that I want. Right. So I do agree with you trying to live as thin as possible, but at the same time, like I don't want to take away some of these quote unquote luxuries that I feel that I'm entitled to at this point, honestly, to live that thin life.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a driver too for me as well. So
that you can actually attain and go and get that stuff.
Yeah.
It's quite neat. There's a lot of people saying like the moment you can tap your card or pay out for an item and you don't even think about it, right? And that's a form of luxury. But we're in an economy where a lot of people don't, or you don't justify the price of something that, right?
Yeah, in 2021, I quote unquote did really well. Was top 1% across the country for brokers, but I always thought and I guess maybe because it's not like Jeff Bezos, like $1 billion, but it was a good year. But like I always thought maybe something would change along the way. Yeah. And like nothing. I just felt like actually became like a nicer human versus anything else. Yeah.
So and define success in your eyes. What would you say top 1%? That's quite high. So how many brokers are there in there's a lot. There's too many. A lot of not good ones. Sorry if I offend anyone.
I think to be in that like top 1%, it's only like maybe 300 or so. Yeah. I think there's probably 30,000 plus. So there's not many. Yeah. And to give an idea, like your average broker does, I think we touched on this in the last video, but your average broker does about 7 million in volume. It might be maybe 10, 20 deals. And 2021 was 144 files. So I definitely blew that out of the water. Yeah. I almost quit too halfway through 2021. So, because I was making too much money and it was weird. Yeah. And I was working too much. So yeah, it's weird to like say like I was being successful and like I couldn't handle it, but it almost happened. So you have to put the brakes on sometimes. Yeah. There's certain I prepared myself with my business quite a bit. Yeah, you definitely built yours the right way. And there was a couple moments last summer where I was like, I got to stop for a second. Like I need to adjust and readapt and make it work more seamlessly, right? And I think I'm pretty efficient now in the way I do my business. I definitely take on less clients, but I take on the right clients that I know I can help. Touch on what would you say is success? Success. Well, I mean, I think even now, like if you think being in the top 1%, some people might not find that even being success. Yeah, so I'm definitely not there now to give an idea. I'm probably like, I don't even know, midway somewhere in there with just where volume has been based on what we just touched on. But I have the mindset of like a 1%er still, and I still talk to a lot of 1%ers, and I have masterminds with like I have a mastermind like every couple of weeks with a guy named Jim Terlucas, who does like 600 to 800 files a year with him and like another guy, and he's done it for like 30 years. Okay. But I think success is like you kind of alluded to, is like it's when you don't have to worry about things. You can tap that card, and it could be a $1,500 purchase, but you're like, no problem, paid for, on to the next, right? Or like something silly for me was like I never paid for my insurance in full up until 2021. I just never had the means financially to like make that purchase, because I was always spending. If I made $5,000, I spent $4,800 or whatever that month, right? So like that was a thing of success for me. I think at this point now it's I just want a life for my family. Like maybe with the marriage, maybe there'll be other kids in the coming or whatever the case is. So like, what's a life that we can build that's you don't need a vacation for? So like, is that going to be here? Is that going to be somewhere else? Is that going to be in Texas? Is that going to be in Thailand, Costa Rica? Like what does that look like? Where's somewhere that like I don't need to make $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000 just to like live comfortably, where I can make 50, 100 grand and it's like over the top, right? Yeah. I don't think Canada is what it once was, unfortunately. We don't make this political and get banned off YouTube, but I'm not a huge fan of the current powers to be with Canada. So it's made things really, really unaffordable. And maybe that's why Clayton's missing, is he spoke too much about this on his personal Instagram. So, but yeah, it's whatever. I think success is just like a life you don't need a vacation from at the end of the day. Yeah. Right.
I think like when we talk of vacation, I like to explore. Yeah. I like to go see different things. And that's not a vacation to me. That's like the joys. Yeah. Right. And that's being able to get away from the day to day. Right. And then also going home for dinner or going to family members for dinner and having people around. That's great.
Yeah, I think people definitely put like a location on like home, like way too much, right? Like home, like we did a month in Costa Rica and we had our stuff was stolen in there, but it was like no big deal because I had my fiance with me, right? So like, I don't think home needs to be a place. It just has to be like what you're happy doing. And if you don't want to travel and like you're cool with the grind, then that's totally, I get it. But like, there's so many cool places out in the world. Like, how can you just stick here? Like, BC's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but like Costa Rica's beautiful, Thailand's beautiful, South America's beautiful, right? Like, there's so many more places to go.
Such a cool perspective. I may have shared the story with you, but I remember being in the Yucatan Peninsula, Playa del Carmen area. We were taking what they call the bus system, the Colectivo. And the gentleman who was driving us asked if he could stop at his sister's house. And most people think you're going to get hacked up. But, you know, this guy seemed very nice. And he stopped and he went up to his sister's house. Not a very nice house, not a very beautiful property or estate or anything like that. But he came back with cilantro and limes. And he was so happy. Not only that he was able to stop and see his sister just for a brief moment while he was doing his day job. Yeah. Right? And it took moments for him to go and get that, but it meant the world to him. Yeah. Right? So it's such a small thing that you need to bring happiness. It's not these big paychecks. It's not these moments.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I learned with like the passing of my family. Because obviously there's a lot of family getting together and like helping with different things. And it was like, these are the like in such a shitty time, this is what's bringing me joy versus like, yeah, I mean, I like getting a $50,000 month. Who doesn't? But like the family was like 10,000x over that, right? So
yeah, and like how many days you're without. And like I brought up the topic of being home for reading at night, right? Those are joys. Yeah. Right. So
well, it's even like with Cade's sports, like I go to everything. Yeah. I very rarely miss something. So it's like that's important to me, and work will be put on hold. Like it doesn't matter if we had a baseball tournament last year where it was like a Thursday, Friday, and I was like, I'm out of the office. Like, sorry. Yeah. So
nope, and prioritize.
Yeah, like there's certain realtors like you and other ones that like they'll text me or they'll call me if it's like super emergency. But for everyone else, like you guys can wait till Monday. There's nothing that's much of an emergency, right?
Just for perspective, Justin's industry kind of shuts down at, I'll be honest, like 4 o'clock.
Probably, right? Realistically.
If you've tried to go to the bank at 4 o'clock, that's the experience Justin gets dealing with the banks. There's not a lot going on. So like to ask you to do something later in the evening, it doesn't go anywhere.
No.
Right.
No.
So
Well, even too, that doesn't even count for if they're back east lenders, right? Because then you're talking at like 2:00 or 1:00. They're basically done 1:30, right? So, they may start 6:00 our time, but I mean, ultimately after lunch, I'm not really getting a response from them. So, but no, it's been a whirlwind. It's been cool. There's been so many challenges, especially in like a downturn, because it just makes me realize how much easier, like it's hard to get started in this business. Like you found out, like we all find out, like every realtor, broker, self-employed person, once you get momentum, it's really easy to get that momentum back again. Totally. And it's just doing like little wins to like constantly get that ball rolling again. It just makes it like I feel like I'm not hunting as much. I'm farming a lot more than I once had to, which is nice. Cause I mean, that 5-year mark is when that starts to happen. Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Interesting though, like the fact that reaching out to people's really, to some people, it's like eating cyanide, right? Like they're afraid of it. And it's not scary. I actually kind of enjoy a bit of rejection because you're going in the right direction.
Have you ever tried asking like for free coffee, or if you go to Starbucks, or like just randomly ask for free stuff?
No, I mean,
okay, so I can't remember what podcast I heard this on, what influencer or whoever said it, but basically when you go to Starbucks, you go to these different places, ask for it to be free, ask for a free coffee, ask for this. Either you're going to get a free coffee or someone's going to say no.
Yeah. And
you pay for it, you go along your way, but it teaches you how to deal with rejection in a very like humble, not a big deal way.
Yeah.
Or you get free coffee.
I don't know if people have noticed in the last year and a half, your $5 Starbucks gift card doesn't buy you a coffee anymore, right?
Good old inflation. Oh, I guess the other thing too is I am one of BC's strongest men last year. That was last year's new adventure I took on with all my free time because the market sucked. I started lifting up cars for fun. So maybe our great editor Curtis will put some video in to this.
What's that big stone?
The Atlas Stone?
Atlas Stone.
Yeah. So yeah, I competed in strongman. I won Kelowna's strongest last year. I became 5th in BC at provincials, and this year I am, I believe, one of the favorites. I don't really know. That's what I get told, but I'm not. I don't know. I just go lift things. That's my life in a nutshell.
Yeah, I don't. Things will change in a year and a half, and if people think they're in a hard spot today, just give time, right?
Yeah, what's that quote, right? You look back and like, or day to day, nothing changes, but you look back and everything's different, right? So like I went through some shit and you can get through it just by like dealing with it every day. Just deal with what comes your way and then go to bed. If it's a bad day, like I had a couple weeks ago, I lost 6 deals in a day for various reasons. It was about 60 grand a commission. And like by 10:30, I'm like, okay, day's over. I'll come back tomorrow. We'll try again, see what happens.
Yeah.
So
it's tough to see the money that disappears.
Yeah.
Like you think you have it. I have a spreadsheet that I put like whenever I close a deal. And if I close it too early or I move it too early, my belief is that it's not going to go through. And I get scared about it. So I'm really apprehensive to move it into the win file, right? So
superstitious. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to break out the numbers for our conflict of interest form. So I used to do something kind of similar. I would never look at it and let like my minion deal with it.
Yeah.
But then the minion's no longer with me. So like now I'm doing it again. And I'm like, I don't like doing this because now I see. And then if something happens last minute, like these deals, it's like, cool.
No, I think you're alluding to an idea is like you do the work, irregardless of how much you get paid. It's just the work that you're doing. Like a big deal would be really cool, big deal in terms of finances, but you probably work just as hard on a big deal as you do on a small deal. I
would actually argue it's the other way around. I work harder on smaller deals than I do with bigger deals, because like generally speaking, obviously not, this is stereotyping, but like generally speaking, a smaller deal is probably somebody that doesn't have as good a credit, smaller down payment, maybe less income, whatever the case might be. Whereas a big deal you probably have like a CEO, they're making multiple 6 figures, they have multiple hundreds of thousands of down payment. So it's easier to just get that through.
Yeah.
Whereas like they're way more finicky they're like, maybe they don't want their credit pulled, like whatever the situation might be. Like there's a lot of other other mentalities they may have versus like maybe a wealthier person on a more bigger expensive deal.
Yeah.
So
No, I do find like I don't ever look at what I'm going to get for a commission from either side, whether it's a sell or a buy.
yeah.
You just got to do it, and you do a similar process for every transaction.
Well, process can't change. Process has to stay the same no matter.
And like I'll add in extra flavor for a different listing if it requires it, and adapt as need. But ultimately, like you just have to. If somebody's asking you to work, you just work.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like it comes down to like how you said you have certain clients you're not working with anymore, like having that no list and like realizing like I used to have a no list. I wouldn't do any self-employed. Well, the market got harder and I was like, okay, I got to I was having a lot of self-employed people come to me. So I was like, hey, I guess I'm opening that door again. Right. Or I wasn't doing alternative lending deals because in 2021, I didn't need to because there was so many like low-hanging fruit, easy deals to do. Well, deals got harder. Okay, let's open that up to B deals now, right? So I think when you have the opportunity to modify your no list, modify like look at your customer journey, see if there's any like bottlenecks so you can make something better, make it more efficient, especially in a slow time, it'll just make things better when it picks up.
Yeah, I find like the ability to let somebody into my network, let's call it, it's pretty. I try my best to make sure these people know, like the best way of putting it, I find it's harder to let people into it because I'm not sure if they're going to fit the way I do, right? Where the people that know me, like me, and trust me, they already know who I am, and they know how I work, and they know my humor. They know like game time is game time, and like focus on it. Where I find with a lot of new people coming in, I have to really vet them and make sure I'm not letting some random person in there and really, stick sticks in my spokes.
Have you had to fire anyone last little bit? Like fire a client because things weren't going the way?
I wouldn't say fire. I would say I've said no to people, right?
So you don't even get to that point?
I don't get to that point because I know that there's something not jiving.
It's just a gut feeling at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and then I also say like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work. Right? Like, this is the way I do my business. Oh, no, you got to do, it's like, no, you're hiring me to be the professional here. My behavior is completely professional about it. But I'm giving them professional opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's even like the client you referred a couple weeks back, right? Like he wanted that more in-person experience, and that's just not how I do things, right? So, and a lot of times, like I don't do it for various reasons, and I find that there's normally a story that goes along with meeting in person that you could explain to me over the phone for 10 minutes. Yeah. But and that's totally fine. Like there's another deal out there, and it'll make like we just move on to the next, right?
Have you ever looked at all the deals you've said no to?
No, I try not to.
Right, and that's it's pretty cool. Like, and then you're like, wow, like I could have made this much more, and I was like, you're just pretty much pushing your Atlas stone up a hill.
Yeah. Right? So the only list I've ever looked at was a list of my first year, which was still a really good year. There's about 25 files in there that I didn't get done that I could easily get done now. So I look at that list, I'm like, damn it, right? But I don't look at people I say no to because that list is much bigger than the people I do deals with.
Totally. Yeah, you find a lot of people are asking and kicking tires.
Yeah. I
also find that if somebody's out there looking for an agent and they don't have one already, a lot of times they don't have one for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? And it's most likely the reason you're discovering through your small investigation, right?
Yeah. Well, even like just recently, I had another agent refer me a deal, and it was an elderly couple, and they were referred to him by another agent where they wasted that previous agent's time. So then they got referred to him, and we had a 2-week subject removal, and they got me like the documents on like the last day after like humming and hawing over 2 weeks if they actually want the house.
Yeah.
And it's like, they all didn't remove subjects, and then I haven't really been in touch with them since, but it's like you wasted like 3 people's time just to like, because you are undecisive. Like, let's make our decisions first, then proceed forward, not just.
I've had it where a client, no longer a client, but they wouldn't tell me what their budget was. And you don't have to use your entire budget.
Yeah.
But you have to tell me how high we can go safely and actually be able to close. And if we're way above that and we're going for a different product, like a lower price product, that's totally fine. But I need to know. But they were just completely looking for the best deal they could get. And the other parties involved, when you put in the offer, they weren't entertaining it. So like it kept going up, and then it came to a point where we kept going up and I didn't know where we could stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even sure if I could close on the next deal, like the next price point that we went up to. And then eventually I got fired. Right. And it's like, okay, thank you for your time. And
Yeah, and that's like, I definitely have, like, there's always clients that like, don't pull my credit. It's like, well, I can't pre-qualify you properly if I don't check your credit. Or like, oh, do I have to get you a job letter? It's like, yeah, because the way that job letter is worded could make or break your deal. Or just like, it did tons of different things. So like, I generally find if somebody doesn't want to go along with my process now, it's like, this is a hard no. Like, you have to go along with the process or I can't help you.
And like, circling back to the point about, you know, some of the easier deals versus the harder deals. The harder deals are these people who are putting the brakes on and saying like, I don't know if we should do that. I wouldn't ask you if it wasn't required.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite is I learned a long time ago to change the wording to like, hey, I need another pay stub or whatever the case is to like, oh, the lender needs.
Yeah.
Because like the lender will ask for like 97 documents plus your third child. And if you haven't had your third kid yet, they're going to take the signing rates over for him. Right. So like, it's really funny when you're like, hey, we need this now. And they're kind of like, well, why? It's like, because that's what they need. Like, they're not going to just give you $500,000 for like your good looks. Like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
If I could get you like a promise letter and a signature, like I would get you a mortgage, but it doesn't work like that anymore.
If somebody made $50,000 a year, just to make my math easy, and they're giving you $500,000, right? That's, you know, 10 times your annual income. Right? Not not taking away your taxes or anything like that. So somebody's lending you 10 years
of income
in advance.
Hoping that you like don't get fired or like become a delinquent.
Yeah. Some people never even know that there's pipelines underneath their house or near adjacent to their house, right? Yeah, a lot of people in the vicinity of another golf course didn't know until it had to be improved, right?
There was a guy at Metro Vancouver who the water main went under his house and they offered him some crazy amount of money to buy his house and he was playing hardball. And then finally they just condemned him and kicked him out. Got nothing.
I remember the pipeline bursting out in Burnaby and crude oil being sprayed all over homes.
Yep.
And they're like, we didn't know we had a pipeline there. We didn't.
Yep.
They thought like people should know, right?
Well, it's even a few years back. You remember the Stanley Park water leak? Do you remember?
Sure.
That was just, it was spewing like 50 feet up in the air. I was on the Metro Vancouver crew that helped fix it. But that water line is like 100 years old. And there's only one water line currently coming from Capilano down. So like all of like downtown Vancouver is relying on like 100-year-old water line that's like paper thin.
Yeah. The Capilano watershed.
Yeah. We haven't tested out this new guy yet, so we'll find out.
We'll see what the AI does.
He needs to have a laptop so we can ask Jeeves to fact check us. We don't have that ability anymore.
No.
Tell the truth.
I want to talk about like financials, how much an ultimate goal would be, right?
To like be happy
Or not happiness. Like, where do you think you can get to?
this year or what?
So like external factors are one part.
Yeah.
And like there is less homes being sold volume wise, right?
I think that'll change though.
Totally will.
Yeah.
Right?
If there's that June rate cut, things will be blast off.
And even before that, be smart for people to hop in and just date the rate. I think it's like I have a financial goal that I would love to attain, but realistically, do I want to forfeit other stuff to attain that goal? I haven't been cycling as much this winter to keep up.
Yeah, I can tell.
There's a lot of focus that people have on money, but there's an offset that like sometimes it costs money to go do stuff that you enjoy. Not only your time, financial, and if you go do those things, you're losing out on opportunities to go make money.
Yep.
Right? There's a healthy number, right? I was in a good employee, like I had a good employer before, they paid me a decent wage. And now that I'm self-employed, I'm making substantially more, but I'm also covering my own expenses. And that territory comes with a lot of bills that you cover. When you come out of it in the end, the more you make, there's a certain percentage that comes off. And I find personally in my business, as I go up in a higher pay my bills become a smaller percentage of my income.
Yeah, because I mean, it only costs like a set, like let's just say 20%. So like that 20% doesn't grow though based on the more income you make. Yeah. It's basically the set whatever.
Yeah. So like to me, I would love to make X dollars a year.
Okay, so let's say it.
Let's say 400,000.
Okay.
Because then you can put a lot of money away, and you can still do your fund investments. You can still do your business investments. You can still grow your business and put more capital into your. And I think that's enough to cover all your expenses for sure.
So is that roughly 40 ends? Give it like roughly.
In our market, yes, okay. 40 ends would be that. And is that doable? And then if I go above 40, then I'm probably going to require help, right? And not that I don't want to hire somebody on to do more help, but I don't find it's going to be beneficial financially to go and have to pay somebody X dollars. Let's just say you're paying somebody $60,000 to $100,000. Well, now you're at 500,000 and you're still down at 4. So you work 10 extra deals, maybe even 20.
Okay, but so like in my business, like I can close pretty comfortably 6 to 8 deals a month, just myself.
Yeah.
So when I had my minion on, we were like in the height of COVID or in the height of 2021, my biggest month was 21 deals that we closed. I didn't have my minion then, that was all by myself, but that's when I realized I need somebody to be monitoring this because I can't take care of 21 fires at the same time. But on average, it was 12 deals a month. So like for me, if I was doing 6, the easiest way to double 6 would be to get somebody that can also do 6, right? Yeah. So if you can do 40 ends potentially by yourself before you need help, by bringing somebody on, you don't think that's going to be potentially 20 more ends?
And it could be, right?
Like obviously leave out exterior issues, but
yeah. And then you're also taking on the risk that I'm of the belief that if I'm hiring somebody on, I want to be able to keep them on.
Of course.
Right.
And give them a proper job and proper
stability.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what I would like.
Well, I mean too, I don't think your first hire would be 100K. So your first hire is probably that 40 to 60 realm, theoretically. Yeah. And I think 20 ends would pay for that. You know, obviously, assuming there's probably a little bit bigger than some of the smaller ones, but that would pay for that, no problem. Yeah.
I just find also as you go into more deals, there's more legwork, more head, like you require more effort to get it done.
When you have more deals?
Yeah. Like it doesn't make it easier.
Okay.
Right? If I have a new employee as well, you got to teach them the ropes and how you do it, but they'll settle in. Yeah,
well, I mean, and that can come down to though that just as simple as you like screen recording whatever paperwork they have to do, so that way that you can have like almost like a module style format of like what needs to be done, so they can go back and review it and check on it, right? So I mean, that's the easy kind of way to streamline that, but I definitely think having somebody on is a really easy way to like double what your performance was theoretically, because at the end of the day, it just works out to be like, if you want to do 40 ends, you probably have to talk to probably 100 people realistically that year and get 60 rejections or 60 maybes or whatever the case is to get those 40 ends. So like the fastest way to 80 ends is talk to 200 people.
Yeah, just double it up.
Just double it up, right?
Yeah, and I find too, you brought the point up about on average per month, but there's busier times of the year, right? So there's cycles that we go through. So if you're doing 40, let's just use this number, 40 ends. 15 of them will probably happen in a 2-month window. And another 2-month window will also have 15.
Yeah, probably like the spring and fall markets realistically, right?
So you're really like just dealing with those big upspurts of business. What about those other times? And how do you deal with it? And how do you fill your void of like staying busy and motivated? And like I find personally, I hate the quiet time, and my wife knows when it's quiet because I'm getting antsy or I'm getting frustrated or.
Well, I think that's like when you have that person on, and let's say you're coming out of the spring market, now you're into summer, and it's realistically probably not the busiest. That's when you have like your helpers. They're reaching out to past clients. They're doing more mail outs. They're doing more things like that. So maybe it doesn't necessarily help you, but that's the way to keep the winter quiet time busier because you've done all the outreach earlier, right?
It's interesting too. We think about the cycles. We talk about the spring market. We talk about the fall market in real estate. I personally find I'm busier in like around Christmas time. There's a big portion of business that I have around that time. And it's just because maybe our market allows people to get in a better position
No, I think it's just a mindset thing. I think it's like when like brokers and realtors alike, where they are focused on now, they don't like. I'm the same way. I'm like my December is always busy. January is generally always a good start to the year, but that's because I'm focused on in September about those times, right? And I don't think that. I think like some of the key players I think do that really well, but I don't think enough of our market does that at all.
Or consistency, right? Like that consistency. Do the reach out. I try and do about 25 touch messages, calls a day minimum, just to get through to people, right? And a lot of people, I don't even need them to sell. Like I kind of like their house, so stay where you are.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like to stay busier, you have to do more outreach. It's pretty simple. You have to, if you want 400K, what does that look like, and then re-engineer it at the end of the day. But when you want to try to take it to that next level, because I was there, but I was more reactive than proactive. Like for me this year, it's 50 million is what I'd like to hit in volume, which is only, I don't know, 2/3 maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit lesser than that of what 2021 was.
Yeah.
But I get paid about 1%, so it's about 500K in revenue. I think it's a good to see where my systems and processes are at. It's a good amount of volume that like no one's starving clearly in my family. And, then I can see if there is some choke points, if like I'm reworking kind of how I pre-approve right now, because I thought it was like too many touch points, right? Like I want to kind of dumb it down a little bit. So I think there's just, it's a good way for me to see if we can do maybe 100 files, maybe 120 files. And then if it's good, then next year will be maybe 80 million or 90 million. We'll just kind of up it from there.
Yeah.
But again, there'll have to be more staff involved. There's going to have to be more of a system behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that's a growth part, right?
Yeah.
We saw in the last 2 years, a lot of teams
Fall apart.
Yeah. And go their separate ways and go back to being individuals. And it's still happening, right?
Yeah. Even just teams not giving this level of service that I've heard they're used to giving, and then having clients reach out to find other alternates, right? So.
Yeah. Like the money was there to do that service before, and now that money is not there, and they're keeping it tight just to make it through this little rocky road that we're going through. And I think it's really important that people see it as like, we do get paid a fair amount. We definitely are able to make a living off of it. And there's some people who only do a few deals a year. What they do with their extra time, I have no idea. But if I look at, I'm doing all this work for people and I'm making all this money, I give back a lot, right? So whether it be for a charity, whether it be for gifts or thank yous or appreciation, it's always something.
Well, like I alluded to earlier, if you're a dickhead, more money is just going to make you more of a dickhead than anything, right? So
you mentioned you try and surround yourself in the top 1%. I haven't found my group that I hang out with, right? In real estate. Like I don't know. And it's quite tough to kind of navigate it, but like a lot of people, they have different interests. They don't have the same, values or beliefs or goals and that's the hard part, is like, you don't want to associate with them because that's going to bring you down. But who are the people that will bring me up? And that's where I would love to find somebody to...
See, I think for me, the hardest part trying to find some of these groups that I'm a part of now was like, I'd find a broker, for instance, that had like just one really big deal. So he's like, he made $1 million, but it's just one deal he did.
And he found,
right? Like he just got luck of the draw, basically. Yeah. And so it's like, well, I don't want you because you haven't done the legwork, you haven't done the trench work, you haven't had to actually really, like, he had to earn that deal, don't get me wrong, but like he hasn't had to do any of the actual real hard stuff to be able to say he's $100 million
and that file probably came to him.
More or less,
right?
Yeah.
So
it could have been like a crazy big land assembly deal or something, right? Yeah. He just, by fluke got the deal for whatever reason and whatever. But like, you alluded to, there's a lot of realtors and brokers that, they just strive to do their 50, 60K and they're happy with that. And that's what they go with. And that's fine. But I think when you are in industries where honestly, real estate's a game in BC and it's basically like printing money. Like, why would you not have higher admirations to make more and see if you can do more with it, right? No,
it's tough. I really find it struggle to go out and meet people that benefit me. And and it might sound selfish to say it that way, but I don't find people that are more giving to me as I'm giving to others. Yeah. Right. So, and that will come eventually, I'm sure I'll connect with somebody, right?
Did you have a large group of friends when you started real estate that like dispersed when you started, or no?
No.
I mean, you're a little bit older, so it's a little bit different than when I started.
I think like the people I knew from growing up, they didn't move with me when I moved throughout the country, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of lose touch with people, and even people are like, I see you're back in BC. And I'm like, yeah, like it's been like 10 years, man. So yeah.
Creep my Facebook more.
Yeah.
That's it for today, folks. We'll see you next time. Oh, I'm just...
Screwed it up.
I thought you were just going. I didn't know we had to both do it.
For people at home, this is our 9th take. Guy doesn't even know his cue.